Nice to meet you, Atif. So it's my pleasure, like
Same here.
talking to you.
Yeah.
So I just want to grab some like quick tips, like what is the ongoing trend of if you are interviewing someone, like what sort of questions, any kind of
Yeah.
tips.
Okay, but you have to let me know a little bit about your background first.
Yeah.
As far
So
as your work. Yeah.
so I have a total of 8 years of experience in multiple fields. For about like 4 years of experience in market research, 2 years of experience with hospitality, and 2 years of experience with this import company related to machineries and all, blades and all heavy machinery. So I was admin over there. Okay, so a total of 4 years of experience, you can say, in admin, and around about like 8 years of experience in BPO as well. If you have heard about Hinduja Global Solutions,
Yeah.
it was a Airtel titanium process.
Fine. Okay, because I really need to know my target audience, so that's why I just wanted to know the background a bit. So as far as the, to answer your first question, as far as the current trends in interviewing are concerned, nowadays it's the age of competencies. People have the skills, people have the knowledge, but it is competencies which make a huge difference. When I say competencies, it means all those intangible aspects, whether it is resilience, the power of resilience, whether it is the power of collaboration, whether it is teamwork, whether it is analytical ability, all these aspects which do not necessarily get reflected on a JD. Whenever there is a domain, for example, market research, you need to know certain tools as far as, to be very effective as far as market research goes. You need to understand the market, you need to understand the psychology of the customers, the clients. These are all domain stuff. Yeah. Other than that, you have the knowledge stuff, which means you ought to have a diploma or a certificate in market research. So these are, by default, these are things which are interviewed and assessed during the interviews. The other aspects, how the person is, whether the person would be loyal to us, whether the person has integrity, whether the person has ability to adapt to a very dynamic environment. So when an organization is very fast paced, but the person has all the necessary skills, the person has all the necessary attributes, and the knowledge aspect is there, but he's too lazy a person, for instance, that person would not be able to run at the race which the organization runs. So that's why we really have to put these people into assessment centers, into psychometric tests, basically to understand whether they have all these competencies. And that's why the best of the best organizations in the world globally are focusing on competencies today. I, for example, run a test and assess your knowledge. I put up 20 questions for you or 50 questions for you, different questions, readily available questionnaires in the net. And I check how your understanding and depth of knowledge in market research. I ask you to appear for a test and check your analytical ability as far as use of the statistical tools are concerned to analyze the market. For instance, I check your correlation and regression analysis and all those things, whether you're comfortable with the statistics part, for instance. These are quite easy as far as assessing people are concerned. But the unseen, that is usually the metaphor of the iceberg is used. So below the waterline, there are all these aspects, the perception of the person, the way he looks at things, whether he has the power of resilience, all these unseen things basically have to be assessed, because it is not only important to have the right skills and the right knowledge stuff, but the attitude and the perception and the values also matter. If you know that there are organizations which, the progressive organizations, the Fortune 500 companies, they all have defined their core values. And if you see the emerging trend in the different job descriptions, after the job description itself, you will see a list of competencies required for a particular role in order to achieve excellence in that particular role. Because we say, now, for example, Vijender Kumar, how do I assess the performance of Vijender Kumar? Vijender Kumar is basically achieving his targets, he's achieving his KPI, everything is there basically to assess the person. But it is also important whether the person has all those competencies which go into the making of the performance. So that is why performance is equal to knowledge application, the use of the skills, as well as all these competencies together. I'll give you a very good example to understand. There is a manager. Once you move up in the hierarchy of an organization, So the span of management, that you need to manage a lot of people. Now, a person, assistant manager would be managing, for instance, say 10 people under him. But for a vice president marketing, he might be managing 500 people under him, right? So that is, as you go up in the levels in the hierarchy, typically for a hierarchy-based, very vertical kind of a ladder in an organization, but there are flat organization structures also in these times. So once you have a lot of people under you to be managed, these competencies, aspect comes into the picture. So when I'm assessing your performance, for example, you have 10 people under you, one of the competencies of your performance would also be how much of resources you have provided to your team members, how much of support you have provided to your subordinates, how much of resources you have provided for them to grow and excel, how much of your efforts are there as far as creating the right environment is concerned. Because if you as a leader, you are not creating the right environment for the people under your team to grow and excel, there's no point. So these are all aspects. When I measure your performance, I really have to see, as far as all these competencies, whether they are there or they are not there. If I'm doing truly that, but if there are toxic managers, there are so many instances of toxic managers. So the toxic managers are achieving their targets, sometimes by fair means and sometimes by unfair means, sometimes by stretching it too much and sometimes being harassing people. So in that way, the KPI is achieved and numbers can be very misleading. And so that is why it's very important to have a holistic measurement, unbiased measurement. And that is why we take care of the competencies. The behavioral aspects are of very, very critical importance. The right intent, the integrity, the honesty, the go-getter attitude, all these aspects basically sum up to an overall holistic measurement of performance. So these are the emerging trends. And that is why, there are tools like 360-degree assessment, where a person is being evaluated by his supervisor, his subordinate, his peers, and his own self-rating. We see the correlation of all these ratings. We calculate the average rating scores. And then, as far as possible, we try to remove this element of subjectivity and bring in objectivity as far as true performance assessment of people are concerned. So these are basically hot stuff, trending stuff in the field of interviews, if I may say so. But overall, it is all encompassing all the sub-functions of HR, whether it is, whether it is training and development, whether it is L&D, all these sub-functions, all these verticals have encompassed the competency-based HRM aspect. I hope I'm able to address your question correctly.